You're live.
Yeah.
You ready?
Hey guys, Pitmaster and the Doc.
What's up, John? Good
What's
to see you,
up,
man.
Sorry we missed last week. We won't let that happen again to the best of our ability.
Stuff happens.
Shit happens. But we're going to try our best to get a video out to you every Wednesday. This one you're not going to get till Thursday. But we're going to try hell and high water to get you guys a podcast by Wednesday. Okay? This one you'll be getting it Thursday, but we're going to try our best. Okay. So, we're going to talk about a couple of things. Let's talk about, first of all, what's going on? Everything good?
Everything's good with me. Just working, family, the usual
Working?
stuff.
What do you like? What a normal day? What do you like? Fix a knee, put on a Band-Aid? Do you give kids
That's about it. Yeah. Today, just surgery all day today, so rotator cuffs and knees. The usual.
A rotator cuff and with a rotator cuff, like what do you do? Just like sew it up and then sew the rotator cuff and then sew the skin back up?
Yeah, we do it all through a scope, so just little poke holes, and you're basically operating on a big monitor like that up there. So we put a camera in the joint and reattach the tendon back to the bone, close up the holes, and send them home.
That's it, just like that?
Pretty straightforward.
That costs like $15,000?
No.
How much?
Well, I don't know. Doctors' fees aren't anywhere near that. Most of the fees in medicine go to the facility, like hospitals, surgery centers, whatever. But anyway, my job is putting people back together and then throwing them back out there. So
they can get hurt again.
Well, your job is to get people back to doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
At least that's my job. So.
All right. Yeah.
Whether it's coming to the pit or going to work or swimming
or
whatever,
or winning a UFC title
or whatever it is.
All right. My day wasn't exciting like that. I just taught some classes and trying to create some champions, but now we're here. We're gonna do our podcast, and Wednesdays is gonna come to you. All right, let's talk about Bisping. Okay. I don't know who's in charge of that. His turnaround was pretty quick.
Well, let's talk about that. So he fought GSP. It was a huge fight.
Right. He got knocked out.
We talked about it, I think.
Right.
So he got knocked out. He probably got a concussion. Then he got choked out.
Yeah. All the way out.
All the way out. And then he was back fighting, I think 3 weeks.
3 weeks later.
3 weeks.
Didn't get knocked out.
So the interesting thing is, fighters fight and then they get a suspension, which is a medical suspension, saying, hey, so-and-so broke their hand. He's out for whatever it is, 60 days or 180 days, unless he gets cleared sooner. So after fights, the medical suspensions get reported. How long are you suspended for? I think those, though, they can be altered. You get suspended, but then if you get cleared by a doctor, maybe you're not suspended anymore.
Yeah, and those are more like you got a cut. It's healed. Okay. You get a broken something. Oh, it's healed up quicker. Okay, you can fight again. But when you have a concussion, there shouldn't be, the doctor comes in and says, he's cleared. How can they clear a concussion? It already happened.
Right. Well, concussions are different grades. So you can have a mild concussion, a severe concussion, and your symptoms, how long you have symptoms after a concussion, varies.
Right.
And you may have no symptoms, but if you exert yourself, you may get a headache, or you may have problems with your memory or whatever else, or you may just still have lingering symptoms after concussion. Part of that has to do with how severe the head injury was, or how many you've had. So I think a medical or a suspension, they put out a suspension based on their concussion, and it's probably a ballpark, and then maybe it gets adjusted from there.
Yeah. What was his suspension?
I don't know. I don't know.
Whatever it was, it wasn't adhered to.
Well, and I would guess that he was then cleared. But the interesting thing is, so he fought again in 3 weeks, and it was not in this country. It was in China.
Yeah, and when you get a suspension like that, it doesn't just say you can't fight again for X amount of time. It says you can't have contact training, and that means contact means getting punched.
Yeah, so if you're on a suspension, it's not just from fighting. If you're training and you get hit, it's the same thing.
It's the exact same thing. So it's kind of weird that he got a concussion, knocked out. I think he was a flash knockout with that left hook, and then he got choked out. But I think he was knocked out before he was choked out. And then to fight again 3 weeks later, when did he find out about that fight? Like a week after he got knocked out. So he was probably sparring again, getting ready for, his next fight. He was probably sparring again a week after he got KO'd, then choked out.
Right. So, from who does, and you and I have talked about this, is who does that responsibility come down to? When can he fight again? You can either put it on the fighter, you could put it on his team, you could put it on the promotion, the UFC, or you could put it on the commission that okayed him to fight in their country, which is China in this case.
Well, you can't put it on the team. You can't. I mean,
well, if it was your guy, wouldn't you feel responsible for?
If it was my guy, I'd say you can't fight.
There you go. So you
right.
Put it on the
so
team.
Then he'll go train somewhere else and fight. So you can't put it on the team because then he can always go. It has to be on him or the commission, because the commission can say you're not going to fight. The promotion can't say you're not going to fight because then he could fight somewhere else. The commission is the only one with any kind of binding authority that could say you're not going to fight again, because nobody else really matters.
The problem is if I fight in one city and there's a commission in that state, and then I fight in another state, because UFC goes all over the planet. So, and then I fight in another state, it's a different commission. Who makes the call? Because the commission over here gave the guy a suspension, and then the commission over here is giving the guy a license to fight.
Yeah.
Right. So,
but that's the way it should be.
So
it has to be that way, because this guy says you can't fight again. I'm going to tell you. I mean, you can't fight again. Period. Until 3 months. So you can't fight wherever that was. The commission is controlling of that. But if he goes somewhere else to fight, then that commission shouldn't have any authority over where he fought there. They could, and some states do, like New Jersey and Vegas, or Nevada. I think they have the reciprocity, and some do. But I don't think they should have to, and I don't think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's just a thing, because I think ultimately, if you want to fight again, you know the risks, and you want to fight again 3 weeks later, it should be your decision and no one else's, really.
Yeah, but see, this came up in the NFL where you said players didn't know the risk. They're hitting each other in the head. They didn't know they're going to get a chronic brain injury that affects the rest of their life. So they sued the NFL, and they won a ton of money.
Of course they're going to sue.
Because the NFL has money, number one. Yeah. But number two, they may have known about the risks and didn't let the players know. So you can't say, well, the fighter knows the risks. Maybe he doesn't know the risks.
Okay. So it's like the lady knew about the fucking coffee spilling on her lap and sued McDonald's for $1 million. People can sue over anything. Anyone with half a brain. So NFL players can't be so stupid that they don't realize that if you keep getting concussions, something's going to go wrong. A fighter can't be that stupid that he doesn't know that, especially in this day and age. Maybe when he was a teenager playing Pop Warner football, they wouldn't know. But by the time they meet the NFL, they don't know about concussions yet. Well, now we know a lot about it now, and you're a medical professional, so you know a lot about it. But maybe every fighter doesn't know about it. But how would the NFL? Maybe the NFL wasn't. How did they? I mean, they're not doctors; they're promoters.
I think they were suppressing information that showed that there was a problem with it. It's like the tobacco companies saying, "Oh, smoke up, it's fine, it doesn't cause cancer," and then saying, "Well, you should have known better." So anyway, my point is the only thing traveling with this fighter from wherever he fought, GSP here, Vegas versus China, the only thing traveling with him is him, so he can make that decision. But the other thing traveling with him that goes to both places is the promotion. So you have the UFC going, yeah, we're going to let him fight, because they have the power to not let him fight again, don't they?
I think they do have the power, but I don't think they should, because that's a conflict of interest. They're not the they're not the commission, they're not the trainer, they're not the manager. They are the promotion. They shouldn't have to worry about who's getting knocked out where. That should be the commission, or else just have the UFC and don't have a commission.
Right.
But there's a commission that we're paying a lot of money for in every state and every country. So I don't think it's the responsibility of the UFC at all. I think, hey, do you want to fight? You should. I mean, if he got knocked out last night and they say you want to fight, and he should be able to say yes or no. And if there's a commission there, they should say no. He's flagged. He can't fight. But I don't think the UFC should have anything to do with it.
Well, there's a conflict of interest because they want to make money, and if they're canceling fights, that hurts their pocketbook. However, they're a little hypocritical because they've taken over the whole performance-enhancing drug testing. So they're saying, no, we want this sport to be safe.
And
they're not saying leave it to the commission.
And the rules, by the way.
Well, yeah, but they're not saying leave it to the commission. They're saying these are our rules. These are the drugs you can take. We're going to test. We're going to pay for the testing. We're going to do all that stuff. So they are saying we're going to take the fighter's health. We're going to own that, sort of. They're going to sort of own it. But then when it comes to, hey, you have a medical suspension, you shouldn't fight. I don't know. I think either it's all or nothing. You should totally be Wild West and let the commission deal with it, or you should and be a promoter, or you should say, hey, our fighters, the health is important to us. We're gonna.
But they're the commission. I mean, they're the promotion. So if they want to, and if the commission, which has the right to say you can't do the drug testing, that's conflict of interest. But they want to do it, and nobody's stopping them. Then I think if they want to test for steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs and not step in if they want to stop fights, like say, well, you have a suspension, I think they should do it whichever way they want. It's their promotion.
Okay. You convinced me. I've changed my mind.
So, I mean, I think they should be able to do both. I don't think they should do either or both.
I would like to see a fighter that gets knocked out having someone look out for their best interest other than themselves. Because if you say, well, he's going to make the greatest choice for himself, well, he's probably got a whole team and a family, and he's making money for people, so he's got other responsibilities. Plus, he's a fighter. He wants to fight.
Right.
So at some point, if it's a regulation or whatever, you step in and say, well, it's not safe for you to fight. Right. Whether you're his corner or you're the UFC, or you're the commission, there are other people making the decision whether it's safe to fight. Right. And as a doctor, I say, hey, if the guy has a medical suspension and you're just going to let him fight in China, to me, maybe he got cleared. I don't know. Maybe he was...
And I think that sounds good. And if it was me, I'm known all over the commissions to being the most protective trainer ever. I've thrown in more towels than any other trainer I know. I've stopped more fights in the corner of any other trainer I know. But a fight like this with someone like Bisping, who's towards the end of his career, he has a family. He's a family guy. He loves his family. And if the risk, of something that might happen versus making $1 million, which could help set him up for the rest of his life with his family, I don't know if, as a trainer, I would say, no, you can't do that. I would say, I'd say I wish you wouldn't risk that. But like I said, if there's $1 million on the line, and this is some guy that is getting near the end of his career and he doesn't have other stuff he's going to do after his career's over, then I think he should have the right to make that choice. Because, I mean, it wasn't like going in like we used to do as an amateur boxer. You would get knocked out, and then in the Golden Gloves, and then say you made the quarterfinals, then you want to go to the semifinals because somebody pulled out, that you'd fight again a half an hour later. So this is nothing like that. There's say $1 million or more on the line, and this is some family guy that just ready to retire soon. I think we shouldn't take that $1 million away from him.
You know what would change your opinion on that?
What?
If your fighter took another fight again and then had a traumatic brain injury and died.
Yep.
And you would say, why did we let this guy fight? Jesus, we're so stupid. Why did we let this guy fight? I should have stopped it. That's exactly what you say. You say,
I'd see
I should
that,
have stopped it.
and then
I'd say, and then everyone would be stepping in saying, why didn't the UFC stop this fight? Why did they just let him fight in China? Everybody would get blamed.
Because that's sensationalized. But what if we say he can't take that fight? No. and then in 3 years he runs out of funds, and him and his family are fucking poor, and he can't even.
That won't make the news.
It won't make the news. So that's why I said it's sensationalized, and you said it's not. It is, because it's sensationalized. If he died, everybody would hear about it. But if he was just poor and he committed suicide because he couldn't feed his family in 3 years, nobody would hear about that.
That's true.
And then you could have said, you should have let him fight and make that $1 million.
I'm just saying, if something bad happened and we knew that, you should have been suspended, you're not going to feel the same.
I agree. And I'll throw in a towel. I've been known to stop fights just because a cut. So yeah, I agree. And so, there's a lot of points to it both ways.
All right,
looks like he's fine.
Let's see what happened.
Let's see.
Let's see here.
Well, we don't know what happened yet.
Let's see what happened. Well, no. So he fought again.
Right.
So maybe it was a great idea. What happened?
Yeah, but he didn't fight. Okay, he didn't fight before the Dan Henderson fight. He got knocked out worse than that.
Yeah, I'm not saying he get knocked out because of that, but he did get knocked out.
I know he did.
And he got knocked out in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, he did. And then okay.
Here, we can show it right now.
I know. Okay, ready? Here, let's watch this.
So who's he fighting?
He's fighting Kelvin Gastelum, and as you can see, drops his right hand, gets caught with a left.
Right over the top there.
Right over the top.
And I think it's interesting, they'll show this again. Watch his head.
Watch the head. Bing!
Bing.
You see that? The head just, bing, counter coup. Bing.
So his head twists violently.
Boom.
So this is a typical shot to the chin.
That is.
So a hook to the chin where his head turned to the side rapidly.
Yes.
And then snap back again. And that, basically what that does is it knocks your brain right into the side of your skull. And there you go.
Boom.
That's pretty ugly.
It is ugly. It's ugly when that happens, and it feels ugly too. Let me tell you. But let me tell you before we go on. I think they showed total respect for each other. I think that's how the UFC should be. It doesn't need to be like just the ugliness that's been coming lately. With the ugliness that people. I think Rose Namajunas, who I'll admit I wasn't her biggest fan. I never was against her at all. I just didn't really know that much about her. I knew that, I know she had a really good trainer, really good camp. Her fiance is her trainer. But I just didn't know that much about her. I know that she's had some issues, and I know that she's good friends with Court McGee. But the way she carried herself before, during, and after that fight, to me was the best show of, I'll just say Bushido for lack of a better term, and she didn't say a freaking word while Joanna was, and Joanna does this all the time, and I don't think she's evil-spirited, mean-spirited. I don't know her that well. But she did come across, and she said some pretty nasty things to Rose. And Rose she was like this. Didn't say a word. This girl was in her face, and she just looked right at her and just didn't say a word. During the fight, she was yapping again. Rose didn't say a word. And then after the fight, she knocked out Joanna. And she just said, what she said was so eloquent about what's been going on today in the fight world. She said, why does everyone have to talk all this shit? I'm paraphrasing. But she said, why does everyone have to say all these ugly, mean things to each other? This is a sport, and I respect my opponents, and they should respect me, and I'll let my fighting speak for me. She didn't say a freaking word. It was one of the best things I've seen in UFC history, definitely in the last year or so. And I'm now a huge Rose Namajunas fan. I mean, huge. So, anyway. So
I think going back to this fight, and I think the interesting thing, going to your classes and learning about, learning what we learn is learning about this. And so, but John's holding up a human skull there. So I think the interesting thing is, you talk about fighters and you talk about the chin and you talk about Bisping and you see what just happened to him when he got hit in the chin. So I think the interesting thing you start to think about when you think about contact sports and medicine is, why is getting hit in the chin, why do people talk about that? Why not just hit someone in the back of the head? Why not hit someone on top of the head? Why is hitting them in the chin so devastating that we all know it is just from watching sports. So I think that the skull here shows you why. So anyway, yeah. So basically, your skull pivots on your
fulcrum.
Yeah, the fulcrum, which is way back there, way in the back of your head, is where your spinal cord attaches and where your spine is. So basically, when you turn your head, it's attached at the back. So when you get hit in the chin, it can violently snap your head to the side, just like that.
And if you get hit a little higher, it doesn't have the same fulcrum, and it doesn't spin the head as much. And when you get hit even more, like on the head, it doesn't spin it either. But when you get hit at the point of the chin, that's the ultimate point where the fulcrum is the most beneficial to you because it spins that head. Number one, that's why it causes the most knockouts. Let me take a side note on that. In the street, when you hit someone in the chin, it doesn't hurt your hand as much as hitting them on the head or even the cheekbone, which you go to hit someone in the chin and they move a little bit and you hit their cheekbone. Ow, it hurts. Sometimes it hurts your hand worse than the person, especially if you hit them in the head. But when you hit that chin, not only does it turn their head just right, it doesn't hurt your hand as much. But the chin is the number one in a cage or ring fight, not in the street. But in the ring or the cage, your number one target should be the chin. And that's why.
So when their chin moves out of the way, you're not going to hurt your hand as much. You punch them in the side of the head, it's like you're punching a coconut. So you're going to break your hand.
And it doesn't turn as much.
And it doesn't turn. So when you snap their head to the side violently, like just happened to Michael Bisping, your brain rattles against the side of your skull, and basically it's like rebooting your computer. If you get hit hard enough, the whole system shuts down, and that's a knockout. And how long you're knocked out is just going to depend on how severe the injury is.
Yeah.
So I think, so how do you get a better chin? Well, you don't. Your chin is your chin. And if you get your head rocked to the side fast enough and hard enough, you're going to go out. So something John was teaching us just yesterday in class is hiding your chin. You're going to have a chin, but yeah, if you can't get hit in it.
This is the water line. Your shoulders are the water line. You want to keep your chin under the water line. Think of yourself looking up like somebody's shooting at you from the shore and you're looking up out of the water, you're going to get hit. But you want to always keep your chin under the water line, and that's your shoulders. So two things have to happen. Your chin goes down, and one good way to practice that is just get some, like this gum right here. See this gum? See my little pack of gum? Put it right here when you shadow box. Then you got to keep your chin down. And it's a good way to practice that. Don't do it while you're sparring because that gets a little awkward. But sometimes when you're shadowboxing, that helps you keep your chin down. So you can also put it right by your shoulder, and that keeps that down too.
And keep your shoulder up. So someone's much more likely to hit you in your head, which you're much less likely to get knocked out. They're probably going to hurt themselves. Or, they hit you in the shoulder, so you'll be fine. So I think that's fascinating when you start learning about the chin in contact sports is you got to hide your chin. You're going to have one, but if you can hide it, the better. And also, and so that brings up the next thing is what they talk about in combat sports and wrestling and boxing and MMA is, does your neck matter? Because your whole, you can't change your bone structure, but you can change the muscles that hold your head up and keep it from getting rocked to the side so violently. So a lot of people do train and strengthen their necks. I don't know if you have, people wear a harness on their head or...
Yeah, I've done all that, and like I said, I was saying earlier, I used to have a neck like this back when I was 240 pounds, and I thought chin was everything. Neck was everything, but I think having a supplely strong neck is much more important than just having a neck that doesn't move much, because you won't turn your head as much. Maybe if you have a stiffer neck. But then to me, there's other things that won't help. So I think you should have a strong neck. You should do basic neck exercises, but you should be really careful because when you tweak your neck during a neck exercise, there's a lot of nerves and stuff, your vertebrae. Whereas if you hurt your bicep, you might tear your bicep. That's that's bad. But if you tear a neck muscle, or even worse, your vertebra while you're doing heavy, like some people like to stand on their head and rotate back and forth to build up their neck. And to me, that's really, really, really sketchy, because all you got to turn is one wrong move and you could really tweak your neck. And I mean, I'd rather tweak my bicep than my neck every day, any day, because I mean, the nerves down. When you get paralyzed, you get shot in the body, your legs, you become a paraplegic. If something happens to your neck, like you happen to be doing some kind of crazy neck exercise and you snap your neck, you're going to be a quadriplegic. So
or stop breathing if you go high enough. So
that wouldn't be good.
That's Christopher
Reeves. That would be
yeah,
terrible.
Terrible. So I think strengthening your neck is an interesting thing for fighters in a safe way.
It is.
Hiding your chin so you don't get hit in the first place.
Yeah, you see boxers, like, even when boxers drop their hand, they don't drop their hand and put their chin up. Like, guys like, a perfect example would be Tommy Hearns. Tommy Hearns, when he dropped his hand, he dropped his left hand a lot, but he'd always bury his chin behind his shoulder. And he'd ride with a lot of the punches. Like, when someone hit him, he'd ride with it. And a lot of boxers do that. Mayweather does that all the time. It looks like he got hit, but then when you watch the slow motion, the punch like follows his chin because he rides with it. Roberto Duran used to do that all the time. He could stand right in front of his opponents, and when you were watching on TV, you thought, why isn't he getting knocked out? He's getting hit like 3 or 4 times in a row, but he's riding with every punch. So that's also a very important skill to have. But preemptively, I say just move your head more and make it a harder target. Riding with punches has to do with more extensive fight-specific training.
Right, and I think trying to ride a punch, if you watch knockouts in slow motion, you're not going to ride that punch very well. I mean, it happens so fast, and your head snaps back. It's reflexive. You're not doing that on your own.
Yeah.
So I don't know, if you watch any knockouts and you look them up on YouTube and watch them in slow motion, watch what happens. Most of the time, you're getting hit to the chin, your head snapping to the side. Much less commonly, you can also get hit with a front kick or something, and your head can snap backwards. Same thing. So you can uppercut or get hit with a kick. But getting hit in the side of the head or the back of the head, knocking someone out, probably not going to happen very often.
It doesn't happen as common. Sometimes, like the cheekbone, not as often. Sometimes, for some reason, the temple is common with some people. And some people are more susceptible than others in different places. Everybody's different. And sometimes getting hit in the temple is they're more susceptible. And some people say in the back of the head, which is illegal to hit in the back of the head for some reason. I don't understand why, because there's nothing like the back of the head. This was considered back of the head in MMA. So you can't even hit there. And I don't know why that is more dangerous than here or anywhere else in the head. But it's illegal for whatever reason, and so you can't hit someone back there. But hitting him in the temple, some guys get knocked out there. But I'd say 90% of all knockouts happen right here, the chin.
And it's a hook. The type of punch too.
Hit me.
So it's not usually a straight punch.
It's not as often. But since guys are staying this way, a lot of straight punches will land. Like if I straight punch, see, if I hit you with a hook, it hit you like this, right? But since we're at an angle, we're not standing facing each other. So if I hit you from here, this is a straight punch.
Right.
It's still going to rock your chin.
Right.
See? But it's easier to get to that with a hook. But a lot of straight punches will land on the chin. Some, like jabs, routinely, well, like if I throw a jab, they call it a right cross for a reason, because if I'm throwing a jab, right, it wouldn't hit his chin. You hardly ever see a jab knockout, except for Todd Duffy. Todd Duffy knocks him out with a jab a few years ago. But it's just going to hit here. But this hand is going to be straight, but it crosses this hand because this right shoulder is back. So when it lands on the chin. So with the right hand, a straight right, you'll get knocked out, but very seldom with the jab. I think hooks are more efficient. Some people think straight punches are more proficient. So that's a whole other ball of wax to talk about. But the chin. Always think chin. If you're gonna knock someone out, whether you're in the street or the cage or the ring, go for the chin if you want to knock him out. I think the best weapon in the street, the first weapon that I think is efficient in the street is the eyes. I think always going for the eyes, number one, if you can get to them, would trump the chin. But if it turns into a swinging match where you're swinging with the guy already and the fight already started, I would always aim for the chin in a street fight.
So what do you think about fighters when they talk about their chin? It's almost like, they talk about, oh, this guy's got an amazing chin, like it's something he did. Like, what do you think about that? Like, is that part of your, does training give you a stronger chin? No. But the ability to take hits and not get knocked out is a whole other thing.
It's genetic.
It's genetic.
You cannot develop a chin, but you can lose a chin.
You can devolve a chin, though. You can go the wrong way with a chin.
Easily. And once it goes, it's gone. It'll never come back.
Right. So there's some sort of injury that's happening to your brain, whether or not you can measure it on an MRI or a CT scan. You can't. No. There's some sort of chronic injury or scar tissue that makes it so you get knocked out more easily.
And some people get it and some people don't. And I don't think they'll ever be able to describe or define or, I don't think they'll ever be able to tell you why that happens. But it does.
But it's interesting to see younger fighters that look like they take these hits that they don't get knocked out, and it's almost like a masculinity thing or a macho thing, like, oh, this guy's got an amazing chin, but he's probably suffering brain damage through all those hits, and then eventually you lose it. I think you are most likely if you keep fighting.
But a lot of people, like Tex Cobb, he had known as the best chin in boxing for years, and then he got knocked out a few times. He kind of lost his chin, but he never lost his wits. And they even did a whole study on him because they said he got hit so much. In fact, he made Howard Cosell quit because watching him fight, I think Larry Holmes, he got hit so much during that fight. Howard Cosell said, "I quit. I don't ever want to broadcast a boxing match again. This is animalistic." So he quit.
Did he really quit? He didn't come back after that?
Never. Wow. And that was Tex Cobb's biggest claim to fame. He'd always brag about that. I made Howard Cosell quit. But anyway, so they did studies on him after his career, and they found out he had like the brain of like, he was sharp as a tack and not one bit of injury.
This is amazing. How do you replicate
Tex Cobb.
How do you replicate that? How do you give that to your fighter?
I don't know. He was also in a couple of movies.
I bet he never fought dehydrated.
Probably. He never had to cut weight. He was like 240 pounds.
There you go. His brain was well lubricated.
So that's
for bouncing around inside of his
skull. You could say that. I would say that, but I know that there's been a slew of heavyweight fighters that never had to cut weight that are punch drunk. Yeah, especially in the old days, the old boxers. Boxers get punch drunk, which is the medical term is dementia pugilistica, but
which is Parkinson-like.
I don't agree, but okay.
Okay.
But ask what's his name? What's the guy, the actor?
Michael J. Fox.
Ask Michael J. Fox. Never had a fight in his life. But I think Parkinson's is Parkinson's, and dementia. I think dementia is related to dementia, like old people get. Right, like they get it from Alzheimer's. Sometimes, there's the mixture of different kind of dementias. I think pugilistic dementia is just it's the fighter's brain calcification of the brain, like an old person gets, only they get it earlier. I think the symptoms are the same, the slurring of the speech, the memory, etc. I don't think it mimics Parkinson's because you don't get shaking and you don't walk different. You just it's all here. It's like you forget things. You're more apt to get irritated easily. Sometimes you're more apt to be violent and stuff like that. It's a brain thing, but
it's well known now though that chronic trauma to the brain, repeated trauma to the brain causes brain injury that catches up with you. I don't know, maybe some people somehow escaped it, but for the most part, it causes what's called chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, which is what everybody talks about now because of football, but you worry about it in fighters, you worry about it in boxing, you worry about it in any combat sport.
Anytime I see my guys getting hit,
if the brain didn't need to be protected, it wouldn't be in the skull in the first place.
I go nuts every time. I mean, now that I'm a medical person, back when I was fighting, I would just stand there, drop my hands, and we'd slug it out with each other, and I never thought of anything of it. I think having my bell rung would be like normal. Now, being in the medical field, being retired, and having so many fighters, man, every time they get hit, I mean, I just want to throw in the towel every time they get hit.
Here's my prediction, going back to what we started talking about, is who's responsible for, the fighter's safety. My prediction is the UFC will incorporate some sort of neurologic testing that you have to pass to fight. That's my prediction. I think they're headed that direction. I think as they're going to want to avoid this instance where someone gets a knockout and gets severe brain injury in something that could have been prevented, someone that fought again too soon, I think just based on what they've done with USADA and performance-enhancing drugs, they're going to move towards, we're the ones looking out for these fighters, some sort of neurologic testing to try to make it safer. Whether it does or not, will remain to be seen. But I think that's my prediction. I think that'll happen.
I think if they were going to go there, I think even before that, because this is more of an acute problem and it's happening at a much higher rate, is they'd have to do something about the weight cutting.
Right, that's another one.
Because that's something that's happening right now, and people are getting rushed to the hospital. More than brain injuries, people are getting rushed to the hospital with dehydration.
But they may be linked. If you're fighting dehydrated, those two things may be directly linked. Weight cutting and head injury may be actually tied together.
It could be the only thing, like I said earlier, the only thing that kind of takes that away is there's so many heavyweights that have had severe brain injuries and knockouts and
they're getting hit harder too, don't you think?
Yeah,
they're getting hit harder.
It's relative, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see more knockouts in the heavier weight.
I think there's like 85. Like that because they're so much faster and
they're stronger.
Yeah, and then I think that's the highest one. In boxing, I think it was heavyweight because heavyweight is after 175. And so I don't know what. That's a good study. We should look that up. What weight classes have the most knockouts? I know which ones have the least. It's the lighter weights and the women.
Guys. Yeah. No, I think you're probably right. Somewhere around 185.
So that's that with that. Okay, we got a big card coming up Saturday, guys. We're gonna talk about that right now. We're just gonna. How much time we got?
We got time.
Okay, so let's talk about the card that's coming up.
So it's UFC 218.
218. This card is so stacked. This card is like stacked to the brim. We got main event. Main event's good.
Hey, how can you not want to see Max Holloway fight? He's Hawaiian.
I love Max Holloway, but I just think he's gonna. I love Aldo too, but I just don't see it going that differently.
Well, last time Holloway won in the third round.
I don't remember.
Right? I don't know. He won. Right. He won. Maybe did TKO.
Yeah.
He beat him up. Supposedly Aldo had a leg injury or something, so he didn't have one of his weapons. So maybe that'll change it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll try to sell it based on that.
Yeah.
I want to see Max Holloway fight because I became a Max Holloway fan watching a fight with you, watching him fight. Who did he fight? Like a year ago, it was Lamas.
When they dropped their hands.
Lamas. Yeah. It was Lamas. They dropped their hands.
Pointed down like
middle
that.
of the ring. There's 10 seconds left in the fight. He points to the ring and they just brawl.
Yeah, he just points at the mat like, let's go, and they just went at it. It was Max Holloway is. I mean, he had a really. It wasn't that competitive. It was pretty competitive, but he had. In one of his earliest fights, he fought Conor McGregor. Conor couldn't stop him. It was a close fight. But so that fight alone is worth admission. But then we got Overeem and Nagamu. I'm not as interested in that fight. I really like them both. I love Overeem. I think he's. You know what? One thing about Overeem that gets, the whole steroid thing, whatever. You could just like people always put his body before and after. And I remember when he fought Chuck, he was like barely 200 pounds. To me, that doesn't matter as much as the way he carries himself. I think he just carries himself like a warrior, and he always has. He's fought in kickboxing, MMA, and he just carries himself like a warrior. Win or lose, he just comes back and goes, I'm going to fight again. He just doesn't ever badmouth anyone. He doesn't make excuses ever. He just goes out there and fucking wars every time. And what gets me really, it's crazy about him, he's Dutch. He's from Holland. But he doesn't even have an accent. He was like born and raised. he has no accent. I hear people that have been in California for 30 years and don't even speak the language yet. This guy doesn't even have a Dutch accent. You can barely even tell that he's from that he's not from the United States. If you heard him talking, you didn't know, you would think he's American. But anyway, great fighter. He's been around, been there, done that. He's had so many fights, it's crazy. And he's fighting a guy that's on the rise, you know.
The Predator.
The Predator, Francis Ngannou, or great guy. So this is an interesting fight. I really want to see Sergio Pettis versus Cejudo. That's going to be fun. This is going to be a technical fight, very, very, very technical. Where Overeem and Ngannou, I think, is going to be more just a slugfest, and I think Holloway and Aldo will just be a massacre. But I think Cejudo and Pettis will be a complete. I think it's going to be all technique. It's going to be a technical masterpiece. These two guys. I mean, didn't Cejudo win the gold medal in wrestling, and then he turned to boxing, and he became a great boxer. I mean, this guy is great. And
what about his nickname, Cejudo? Does the messenger seem very intimidating? That he's the messenger? I guess it depends on what the message is.
I don't think he needs he doesn't go on intimidation much because he's so talented. I mean, like I said, he won a gold medal in the Olympics, and then he came back and he won the Golden Gloves in boxing.
It's pretty impressive.
I mean, he's an impressive guy. And then Sergio Pettis, I mean, he started off being Anthony Pettis' brother. Now he's come up and he's doing main events and main cards, and he's risen.
He's number 4.
He's unbelievable. He's really good. So that's going to be a complete technical fight. The next fight is the war. This fight is going to be the brutal. It's going to be two guys just swinging. Alvarez against Justin Gaethje. That Justin Gaethje guy, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. But I've seen him fight. He was like an Olympic level wrestler who decided he didn't want to wrestle. He just wanted to beat the shit out of everyone. And he just stands there and bangs. He gets dropped in almost every fight. I don't know if there's that stat. But he gets dropped all the time. But he always comes back and knocks people out. It's unbelievable watching him fight. And Eddie Alvarez is no schmuck himself. Eddie Alvarez is a banger. So watching these two guys, I would think that Justin Gaethje has a little bit of the edge if it's the.
He's 18-0.
Yeah, he's
18-0.
He's fucking brutal.
That's impressive.
But Eddie Alvarez, I mean, he's nobody to. I mean, he's been around. He's been there, done that. That's gonna be an interesting fight to see. I'm not gonna pick a winner, but to me that's the fight of the night. I mean, I'd rather see that one even than the heavyweights, even though the heavyweights gonna be good. That's the fight I want to watch more than any. The girl fight, they're both good. This is just like 6 of one, half done on the other. I think they both have skills. They both have. I think they're both pretty equal. So it's gonna be a technical fight. They both do bang. They both have submissions. They both have strikes. So it should be a fight. But I definitely think some of these. I think like Felder fight should be against Oliveira. Should be in the main card before this one, or even Yancy Medeiros against the Cowboy, the Brazilian Cowboy should be in the main card. But whatever, it's not. So
there's good prelims.
There's unbelievable prelims. The two main ones that I want to see, not really that interested. Herring's fighting. Not that interested in that one. Not really that. No, another heavyweight. No, I'm really interested in the Oliveira and Felder fight. I think that should be on the main card, definitely. And let me just say, Felder he's like broken into the announcing a little bit. he's an unbelievable announcer. These fighters that turn into announcers they're so I don't know. It's so good to hear them. It's unbelievable that they do it that way, that well. That they just break right into announcing, and they're so proficient at both. And these guys take it so seriously. Like Brian Stan, you got Kenny Florian, DC. All these guys, they study. Like when he commentates a fight with John Anik, he spends hours going over each fighter and their history.
DC?
No, well they all do, but I'm talking about Paul Felder right now.
So who's your top 2 people you want to hear on a fight if you're gonna watch a card? Like you're gonna watch a card Saturday. Who do you want to see announcing?
I wish they could do this, but they can't. My best one that would be Joe Rogan and John Anik.
Yeah.
But if it was so Joe Rogan and John Anik to me are without a doubt the best. But then if there was just one of them and a fighter, I say Kenny Florian, DC, Frank Trigg. He was really good too in Pride.
I miss like Goldberg announcing, but then I miss him announcing with Rogan because that's watching MMA back in the day. That's who it always was, and it wasn't MMA without them. But as it changes, it's kind of cool to see like DC announcing a fight.
DC did a great job.
Good. Yeah, he was great. So
one thing about like Felder, okay, he just says stats and he's really knowledgeable and he has a good personality, but he's just boom, 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 boom. When DC is calling the fight, he's all over the place. Yeah, and his emotions come out, his personality comes out. It's different. And then when Kenny Florian has kind of a dry wit and he kind of throws in little zings here and there, but he's really, really not. They're all so knowledgeable when they're watching a fight. They're like schooling you on what every move is and what every technique is. What should the guy do next? And when he gets in a hold, how should he get out of that? It's unbelievable. I love the way that these fighters. Brian Stan is probably he'd probably be the top one, but he's not doing it anymore, I don't think. But he was retired and he would spend days before a fight just going over. He knew everything about every fighter on the card that he would cover. I mean, he took his shit seriously. So I just love the fact that these guys are transitioning from fighter like Yves Edwards, Woodley, Tyrone Woodley is, and they're doing like the after shows and stuff like that. These guys are really, really good at it, and I'm really happy that they're doing that.
I think you should be up there. That's my number 1 and 2. You and Joe Rogan get up there. All right, so I think you should leave everybody with it. Just let them watch this Bisping thing one more time. I mean, this was something John and I have talked about quite a bit since this fight. So just
bang! There's the chin.
So this episode is called The Chin.
The Chin.
The Chin. We'll try to get it.
Chin. Bang. Boom! Right on the chin. That was the chin right there.
He didn't hurt his hand for sure.
Boom! Didn't hurt his hand, but he hurt. He definitely hurt Bisping's chin.
All right, that's what brain injury looks like, everybody.
Up close and personal. You might see brain injury. I know what it feels like.
All right, it's a good one. Good job.
See you guys next Wednesday.
They should follow you on the Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter, Pit_Master. And Instagram, I actually check it out. Okay, while you guys are here, you're gonna see on my Instagram right now. I do techniques right now. Look, I am showing you guys one of the most important techniques in the world. One of the most important skills to have. Don't block. Move your head. Forget about blocking. Blocking is reactive. Moving your head is preemptive. It makes it a harder target. Blocking is just hit or miss, and you're going to miss half the time. Moving your head makes it harder for you to hit.
So where can they learn about this?
Pit_Master. That's my Instagram. All right.
I'd give you my Instagram, but there's not going to be anything that exciting on
His Instagram is cute.
So follow John on Instagram, or check us out on SoundCloud or
iTunes
or YouTube.
This will be on YouTube every Wednesday evening. Our podcast.
So
The Pit Online Dojo. Just like right up there. The Pit Online Dojo, all one word. You go to youtube.com/The Pit Online Dojo, and you'll get all of our podcasts and my techniques. I'm showing you guys how to be the best martial artist in the world.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So follow John. All right, John. See you next week,
bro.
man.
It's getting good, huh? We're getting